gummy bear.
Hey everybody, welcome to Game Breaking News with me, Jeff Grubb, your host from giantbomb.com. Thank you for tuning in. In this episode, we're going to be talking about Switch 2 hardware reviews or lack thereof, and a huge game shows signs of life. It's going to be a good one because we have AJ Minotti on the show. Ash Guy, how are you doing?
What's up? I'm doing good, Jeff. How you been? Hell of a week, huh?
It's been a hell of a week, absolutely. I've been good, busy, obviously going to stay busy for a while now, although every day some things come together in a way that feels very satisfying and like we're making progress. And then, of course, new problems arise. But we got a lot of momentum, so that's feeling good. Really just trying to lock down SGF. And if we can do that, then I'll be like, okay, we can really start planning for the future at this point. But yeah, we're doing good over here. Tell people a little bit about yourself. You're not Mike Minotti, but you are a host of 90s Disney. Why don't you fill people in?
So 90s Disney is a podcast Mike and I do with our brother Chris. We talk about Disney stuff from the 90s, so theme parks, movies, TV shows, video games, anything else we can think of. That's been going on for 6-7 years now, so check that out if you're at all inclined. If you want to hear about Mike's recent trip where he was not at the PAX East panel, we're going to be talking about that. We're recording Sunday night. And
awesome.
You were on the show as well. You talked about your recent trip a few months ago, so if you want to hear more Jeff Grubb, there's also an episode. There's a duel right now between whose trip report is more popular, Mike's early Epic Universe trip or Jeff's family Disney World trip.
Everyone knows how to vote for the good guy there, for sure.
So just gotta go listen. That's how you vote.
I totally said Game Breaking News, didn't I? I didn't even hear myself say it. It didn't register until I saw the cursor moving on the dock, and I looked over, and it was Jan updating it to Game Mess Mornings for me, so I don't make a mistake again, and I appreciate that, Jan. Hey, listen, I just read what's on the screen, everybody. Okay, yeah, so people should check out 90s Disney. I mean, listen, you used to run Exploding Barrel podcast. You podcasted about games for a long time there, right?
Since 2007. That show ran for a long time. Back when not every celebrity in the world had a podcast, and we thought we had a chance of making something.
Yeah, you were podcasting before who invented podcasting most recently? Joe Rogan, since Joe Rogan invented podcasting.
Yeah, he stole it from me, and I've been in litigation for years, and nobody knows about it. It's really sad.
All right, we do got a lot to talk about, so let's explain what we do here. Most weekdays, I, Jeff Grubb, will help piece your gaming life back together. That includes breaking news and maybe even some of our own original reporting. For all these topics, I'll get the input of a bona fide expert who will make me look smart. If you were watching live on Twitch, welcome. You can always listen to the show later on podcast feeds by searching for Game Mess Mornings. I'll fix that here too. It still says Game Breaking News. Or find the RSS feed on giantbomb.com. Speaking of giantbomb.com, go to giantbomb.com/join. We're an independent company now. It's the five of us trying to figure this thing out. If you go there, you could support us. All of that money goes back into making us make this website. So if you like what you see, if you like what you're watching, if you like any of our stuff, Blight Club, anything like that, go over to giantbomb.com/join and let's make it happen. You can also catch this show later, though, on YouTube. Hello, YouTube. All right, we have a lot to get into, so let's start the show with Nintendo Switch 2 final tech specs and system reservations confirmed. Basically, this is a breakdown of the Switch 2 hardware as we finally have full information by Richard Ledbetter of Digital Foundry, writing over at Eurogamer. Nintendo has released its own technical specifications for the Switch 2 console hybrid, but it's fair to say that the detail is somewhat selective, and that's okay. It's been a long time since the firm ducked out of the technological arms race against Sony and Microsoft, but at the same time, an information void demands to be filled. We've covered compelling leaks about the new console's T239 processor in the past, but today we can rule out the various asterisks and caveats surrounding unconfirmed rumors and deliver what you might call a final specification, along with some of the limitations developers are dealing with in working with the new console. We'll get to those here in a second. Starting with the CPU, NVIDIA and Nintendo have indeed settled on the ARM Cortex A78C, basically just like an 8-core processor, 6 cores for developers to work with. This is Ampere architecture for the GPU. It has 1,536 CUDA cores. Really, all this AJ stuff that did leak before. We did know about it. I think there's a couple of things worth pointing out for people who are like, I don't care about these numbers. Tell me just what this might mean for me. Not much. This is going to be a good handheld, right? That's all you really need to worry about. It's going to have those Nintendo games you buy the system for, and then in terms of like, hey, it optimizing itself for either the home console on the TV experience or the handheld experience. Looks like they've made some improvements there, where like in docked mode, the memory bandwidth almost doubles, which is nice. That seems to enable the CPU to downclock, so it won't run as hot. Things along those lines. They also have a custom firmware, AJ, for decompressing files, so they don't have to put as much work on the CPU. Just seems like they did a lot of customization with NVIDIA to make this handheld make sense, and that's the sense I get, like from the early previews of people playing this thing and being really impressed by the visuals. Is that this isn't just that tablet hardware that NVIDIA was making slapped into a handheld. They really did the work to make this thing feel like a Switch 2 that can last for the next 5 to 10 years, right?
Yeah, it seems like they learned a lot of lessons of what they wanted after taking the Switch 1 hardware as far as they possibly could, and how they had to kind of break it to make things work. You talked about like the decompression loading tech. One of the tricks they did on the Switch 1 was they would actually downclock the GPU during a loading screen so the CPU could rev up and wouldn't kind of like thermally throttle anything. So now they just have like a bespoke method for kind of achieving a similar goal there. So obviously a lot of custom work went in. This isn't off the shelf components like the Switch 1 was. So it should be exciting to kind of see how developers go tap into this at launch and into the system's lifetime.
As far as some of those concerns that Richard Ledbetter of Digital Foundry was pointing out, they seem to worry about game chat and that running at the same time as a game. And I think the way he put it is some developers are concerned because Nintendo gave them this tool to test their performance when game chat is turned on. Basically, it just seems to simulate a game chat session. And so they're like, okay, this will have an effect on performance to some degree. What that degree actually is does still seem undetermined. Are you worried at all about running game chat, or is that something you don't even think you're ever going to use?
I could see myself using it. I don't know if
Me
it's
too.
something I need to be worried about. Maybe it's a developer concern. It sounds like what happened with the Kinect on the Xbox One.
Yes.
There were system resources set aside for that because every game had to support it. And then eventually, as kind of Microsoft was like, okay, Kinect's not so important anymore. They removed that kind of system level occupation. So maybe we get to a situation 3-4 years down the line where it's not required that every game has to support game chat. The games that do can leave that headroom and the system can take advantage of the space to run it. But if you want to be like, no, this game needs everything, game chat is not supported. Which, they have games that don't support game recording on the Switch. They've done something like this before. So it could be an option down the line.
Yeah, and I do wonder, I'm sure there will have to be some stuff reserved in case someone turns on game chat. But I imagine if it's not turned on, it's not like game recording, right? Where that is just always happening in the background. If you're not using game chat, it shouldn't really be engaging much of those resources at all. So hopefully this is a situation where it's like you understand the performance hit you might be taking, and hopefully it is negligible. I know, Ash Guy, there are a lot of people who are never planning to open game chat once at all, and
Yeah,
I get
I don't
get
think
that.
they'll make it. Seems to me like this resource is set aside whether using it or not, because I don't think they want a game to run worse if you turn it on, because you'll never turn it on. They want you to use it.
Yeah, I guess that's a point.
My guess would be that
Yeah.
again, it's like a Kinect situation where it's always running, always using it. That way they know the games will have a consistent experience.
Yeah, I do have concerns about that. Then I think you're probably right. And it's like, man, most people probably aren't going to use this thing, and they probably aren't going to want to hear that their game is running just 2 to 5% worse because of this thing happening in the background that they've never engaged with. Now,
Mhm.
I've been having Emmy's been playing Minecraft for like the last 2-3 weeks, and now she's been playing with her cousin who's up in Michigan. And I've set it up so she's got this app where she can talk on her phone to her cousin while they're playing the game. So I already see a future where game chat and the Switch 2 and my kids all make a ton of sense. Like
Mhm.
that seems like a really great solution for me. So I will probably use this thing a lot. So I'm glad it's there, even if it, like in demonstrations with that 15 frames per second video and stuff like that, looks really rough. That's how it's going to work in the real world as well. Still, though, for my purposes and connecting the kids in the simplest way possible, totally going to use this thing all the time, I suspect. Uh, overall though, for the Switch 2, when it comes to its hardware performance, I'm still of the opinion, AJ, that this thing is going to surprise most people for the
Mhm.
first year or so. I think people are expecting like something worse than the Steam Deck, and I think once the games uh, putting the actual specs on paper aside, once all the specialized tools and NVIDIA's software integration with its entire like hardware stack are implemented in each game for the Switch 2, I think things are going to run way better than people think.
I think Cyberpunk's going to be an interesting flashpoint for a
Yeah,
lot of people. You'll see a ton of videos Cyberpunk on a Steam Deck versus a Switch 2. People are trying to draw the equivalences between the power of the CPU and the Switch 2 versus the Steam Deck, which is hard because it's ARM versus
yeah,
x86. But again, the console development always has that benefit, right? You have that one spec, that's what you're developing for, you're optimizing for. You always get a little bit more out of it. Um, so I think, especially in the early going, you're going to be beating what a Steam Deck's capable of. Now, a Steam Deck 2 or this rumored ROG Ally 2 / Xbox device, could that
right.
already come out strong out of the gate? It's possible. That's also potentially going to be a $900 device. Now you get into it, even though the Switch 2 is expensive, you get back into this weird cost analysis paralysis thing, where $1,000 handheld doesn't compare to a $500 console handheld. And, what does that mean?
Yep. God, we probably do get to the point here where maybe not the next Steam Deck, but the one after that could be ARM, right? They got to be heading towards
Hmm.
ARM for that thing. It just seems like for all the improvements and for, x86 are the chips that are in your desktop computer and your laptops, everybody. ARM is what's in your phone and now in Apple computers. And it's the reason you can have like a really powerful MacBook without a fan in it because it's these really efficient chips. That's the big difference between ARM and x86. Your consoles have x86 processors in them, and it seems like we are at that inflection point where one of these things really does have to kind of win going forward. x86 did win these spaces for the last 40 years or whatever. It does feel like now x86's improvements in terms of efficiency are not keeping up with ARM's improvements in terms of power. So I think everything kind of slowly shifts to ARM as quickly as it can. So we'll see.
I think that's the future of Proton. It's not going to just be a
Yeah,
translation layer for Windows, but x86 instructions as well.
I think that's exactly right. All right. Media will not have Switch 2 reviews before launch day due to significant day one patch. This is from My Nintendo News. Those of you hoping for early reviews for the Nintendo Switch 2 hardware and software shouldn't expect to see them popping up anytime soon. The game business, shoutouts to Dring, has been doing some digging, and the reason for the lack of pre launch hardware reviews is that Nintendo Switch 2 will require a significant day one update. Further details on said update were not disclosed by the game business. We will hopefully have our Nintendo Switch 2 review coverage published at the same time as other publications. That's from My Nintendo News. Some media have even been warned they will not have their machines until launch day. Nintendo has told journalists that this is due to the requirement of a significant day one patch. I bet that it's a big part of it. I
Hmm.
think Nintendo's also just weird about these things, and
Right, right.
maybe more weird than ever. Where they really are only going to trust the biggest of the big. Like
Hmm.
I think IGN gets one. Like I
Right.
think IGN probably gets one early for review. And then I think they have like a tier system, and they're very
Hmm.
very selective. Creators, even like the biggest creators, independent creators on YouTube, probably aren't going to have one because again, Nintendo is very weird about these things. I, does this affect you in any way? Do you feel this? Because I'm just like at this point, I get it. I'm gonna get a Switch 2 no matter what, and then I'll make my own decision. But that's because it's the job. How are you feeling?
Yeah, I mean, I'm pre-ordered and going to a midnight launch. I mean,
Right.
anymore console launches are kind of review proof. Like this thing, it's functionally is sold out before it's even released. So like they don't need the press coverage for that. I can understand, people in your industry who rely on that traffic on day one, so they had to have something. They're gonna have to have some kind of content, write-ups, videos, whatever, on launch day. So that's a stress for the media industry. But Nintendo doesn't need this. The Switch 2 is kind of a controlled message that they're putting out through things like the Nintendo Today app. That they are very much in control of their messaging, and they like it that way. I mean, you talk often about how you got the Switch 1 early and you played Breath of the Wild. How early did you get that console before launch? You
I mean,
remember?
pretty early. So I think like 3 weeks.
Mhm.
something around there, 2 to 3 weeks
That's a
early.
lot, and that
Yes.
I mean, we're 3 weeks today from the system coming out, right?
Yeah,
So you don't have one now.
that's
We know
crazy.
that, unless
Yes.
you're got a really good poker face. I'm looking in your shelf
Yeah,
right
just
now.
look behind me. You might spot something for sure. May
Um,
15th. Jesus, oh God, we got to get
but
shit
yeah,
done.
I mean, I know like they're having events. There's public events. I've heard reports of press getting extended play time with Mario Kart. So like you said, the big outlets will have something. This hurts the smaller outlets, the smaller creators, who are gonna be busy because it's gonna be launch of the Switch 2 and Summer Game Fest all going on at once. So buckle up, I guess everybody. It's
Hmm.
gonna be a crazy week.
Yeah, and I think like you're right. Review proof. The people who are showing up for this launch period are all the true believers. The ones who are like, I want a Nintendo console, even if it turns out to be terrible, because I just like have all the terrible Nintendo stuff and all the good Nintendo stuff. And there's my Wii U still, and I'm not getting rid of that. And I think that's how a lot of the people who are showing up day one feel. As we get a few weeks removed from that, reviews will matter more to that next tier of people who are like really looking at that price, really looking at the value, looking at the hardware, looking at the software, and trying to make a more informed decision and feeling better about it. At a certain point, like I'm gonna feel good about it no matter what because I'll be able to make content on it. Um, Still though, Nintendo, weird company. Not surprised to hear this. Do you have a sense overall that this is a weird launch? Some people have said that to me, and I'm like, yeah, I guess so. But all launches are kind of weird now.
I feel like nothing about the launch of the system has gone the way they would have liked. I feel like
Yeah, that's
it's
true.
late. It's later than they wanted. The tariff situation is screwing with their pricing messaging. Um, yeah, I feel like if they had a do over, this would have come out at a different time and in much different circumstances.
Yep, definitely. All right, we got more to get into, but before we do that, let's take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. If you don't want to hear this, there is ad-free versions. Go to giantbomb.com/join, but you didn't do that, so here we go with our ad. This episode of Giant Bomb is brought to you by Kind of Funny. When we said we were going independent, Kind of Funny was the first group in our inbox because they believe in and want to support independent media, because that's what they are. For more than a decade, Kind of Funny's been making YouTube videos and podcasts about video game reviews, previews, and news, but they also review and rank Marvel movies, Alien vs. Predator movies, and just about every other film franchise you can think of. Kind of Funny is an independent, 11-person talk show network that's live Monday through Friday, starting at 10 a.m. Pacific time. The day starts with Kind of Funny Games Daily, leading into the Kind of Funny Games Cast, usually giving you a rotating podcast like their weekly The Last of Us and Andor spoiler cast. And then later, they stream a game. If you like Giant Bomb, chances are there's a Kind of Funny show that you'll like as well. Check out their full slate of programming on youtube.com/kindoffunnygames, twitch.tv/kindoffunnygames, and podcast services around the globe. Then subscribe on whatever platform works best for you. Just like Giant Bomb, Kind of Funny only exists because of support from their audience, so give them a chance whether it's your first listen or your first time in 10 years. All right, we are back at it. Let's get into the news. I'm Jeff Grubb from Giant Bomb. That's AJ Minotti joining me. Let's do it here with Sony claims it's considering manufacturing PS5 consoles in the United States due to tariffs. This is from Sophie McAvoy at GamesIndustry.biz.
Excuse me. Something in my
Sony,
throat. Sorry about that.
no, God, that cold's really been getting your whole family over there. I'm sorry about that. Sony has revealed it is considering manufacturing the PS5 console in the U.S. as a result of tariffs during an earnings call following the release of its full-year financials. Sony president and COO Hiroki Totoki told investors that manufacturing hardware in the U.S. needs to be considered going forward. However, he noted that the firm wasn't in such a critical situation for this decision to be implemented immediately. Yeah, no shit. So, Ash Guy, obviously, this is the thing you say when you are worried about like how anything else you might say might be perceived by, let's just say, the U.S. government. You open up with this so they can hear what they want to hear, and then you say the other stuff, which is probably more true, like we might raise the price of the PS5 to deal with tariffs. Okay, let's just say that they really were considering this. Since they've said this, in fact, I think even it was happening like almost simultaneously, like within hours of when they said this, the tariffs between the United States and China like dropped. So it's like down to 30% from 145%. And it's like if you were just about to open your factory in the United States because of tariffs, it just changed again. And of course, No one was doing that because it's been weeks. And even then, a lot of people were like, this is not financially viable. For example, building a PS5 in the United States, even with tariffs, wouldn't be financially viable. So this is just them saying things to kind of soften the other things they're saying, right?
Right. Yeah, if I'm one of these companies, I am doing two things right now. First of all, I'm trying to just say, okay, we just need to survive the next 3.5 years.
Yeah.
Get through all this nonsense back and forth till things hopefully level out. In the meantime, hey, we could raise the prices and we have a scapegoat.
Yeah.
And then we don't have to bring them back down. Prices never go down. Prices go up. I mean, honestly, they're probably, in a weird way, like, this could work in our favor if we play this right. And that's
100%.
Saying you're opening a factory in the United States is trying to play it right.
Yep, I think you 100% nailed it. They are definitely looking at the silver lining here of it's very likely that these tariffs, most tariffs do come and it's hard to get rid of them. These tariffs, they probably will be gone within the next, 2 to 5 years or whatever. And so in the meantime, you're right, they can position against those, and that's the boogeyman they can point to, and they can get away with a lot in terms of public perception. Yeah, it sucks, and you're right. They're not going to back off of those price increases, even if the tariffs are not hurting them in the same way. I would point to GPUs. I've pointed to them before, as they've used every excuse they could possibly find over the last 10 to 15 years to raise prices in every way. And the mid-range or like the starter cards have gone up hundreds of dollars in that time. It's kind of nuts. And the consoles are trying to do the same exact thing now.
I mean, Microsoft raised the price of Xboxes because of tariffs, and then it's not like when these China tariffs are put on hold, they're like, oh, never mind, we'll bring the price back down now. No, it's up.
Yeah, and they never even intimated at that, like, oh, this is going to be a temporary. They definitely want people to get used to these prices, for sure. All right, glad you're here. Going to need your opinion on this next story. Kingdom Hearts 4 team provides development update and shares new screenshots. This is from Liam Doolin at Nintendo Life. Square Enix ended up releasing the Kingdom Hearts series as a cloud game on the Switch, and while it wasn't exactly what fans wanted, blah, blah, blah. If you did happen to play through the cloud version on Switch or are just curious to know what's up next in the Kingdom Hearts series with Kingdom Hearts 4, here's some details. This is what they sent to our Kingdom Hearts community. We're currently working hard on Kingdom Hearts 4 and will continue pouring ourselves into the game's development. We're dedicated to making this an experience that lives up to your expectations. We've seen how excited you are, and we are truly grateful from the bottom of our hearts. We are equally excited and can't wait to share more about Kingdom Hearts 4 when the time is right. Until then, we appreciate your patience. Thank you for your continued support. And then there were a bunch of screenshots. Just tell me, what is your reaction to this update? Does it like this give you a lot of confidence that you're going to be playing this in a reasonable amount of time? Does this make you worried for any particular reason? What are you thinking?
I'm not worried, and I don't think I'm playing it anytime soon. But that was always the expectation going into any new Kingdom Hearts project. I mean, we all remember how long it was between 2 and 3. The exciting thing, I guess, about the screenshots is that it does seem to imply we'll be playing as Mickey, which I find actually very enticing. That was actually the original premise of the game. Was you're supposed to be Mickey. That's why Sora's got those big shoes. But no, so I mean, I know what you said, but I'm the Minotti, and I don't know where Chris really falls in this. I don't quite jive with Kingdom Hearts the way I should, I feel like.
Sure.
I didn't play any of the side games, so the story completely got away from me. I've watched YouTube videos to try to grasp what's going on. And I never liked the way they played. It's something always felt off about the gameplay.
You said it, not me.
Yeah, Mike Minotti's not here, is he? He's not in my house. Okay, good.
He's in chat, so just be careful. He might get
mad. Oh god, there he is, booing me. He's booing me. He knows this. We've talked about this.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was hoping 3 would be a little bit more of a step forward for the series, but that was also kind of trying to wrap up a story. So maybe this is a good chance for the series to reboot and modernize a bit. I think I'd like it to. And I wanted to be big. Like Kingdom Hearts 3 felt like a very small game. There was only a handful of worlds where that was like the one thing I did enjoy about the game was like, what Disney movie am I going to now? And we kind of already knew about it before I mean, granted, it's a different time. All this stuff gets revealed before the game's out, but it didn't have that kind of, I didn't even see people after the fact like, oh, I didn't know there was going to be a level based off the black hole, like something goofy like that. Like we don't get that anymore, and maybe that you can't put that toothpaste back in the tube, but I want the game to be surprising. I want to go deep with deep cuts. I feel like we kind of missed that this time around in 3.
Yeah, you're so right though that like it's a different time because in this era with how expensive games are, if the teams do all this work to get something like the black hole and put it in the game, they can't not use it in the marketing. Like they
Hmm.
have to use it in the marketing to justify the whole thing because it's like we have to be able to sell it to the people who will be excited about this. So we can't hide it away and not trumpet the fact that we've done all this work. So you're right that I agree that the idea of Kingdom Hearts at this point for what that game is and how it plays for me, the thing I would be excited about too is what game or what movie setting am I going to next? And they kind of lose some of that luster just based on the fact that it's probably hard, one, to make those settings so they can only do a limited number, and then two, they have to kind of like sneak those out and tell people about them before you even get into the game. That said, what would you want in terms of modernization and improvements from a Kingdom Hearts 4?
I mean, I think when you look at something like Final Fantasy VII Remake and how those games play, I hope they go a little closer to that. Again, I didn't really play much 3, so I can't even speak to how truly differently it played. I just it didn't appeal to me at all.
Mhm.
Which is again is weird because I host a Disney podcast and I'm on this video game podcast and I love Final Fantasy. It should be all the things I like, and yet here I am. I just want to see. I want to jump and not feel like I'm flying through the air like Princess Peach and Mario 2.
Sure. Yeah, I think they could just make it feel a little bit, I don't know, more instant when you're playing that game, just to give it a little bit more joy when I'm playing it. I agree.
Mhm.
But yeah, also I've accepted it's not for me, so I don't need it to change for me in particular. But I get it; it could
See,
still be
it should
improved.
be for me. That's what
It
annoys
should
me
be
about it. It
exactly.
really should be.
All right, let's get on to this next story. Prince of Persia: Sands of Time remake is on its way and will be released by the end of March 2026. Basically, that's just by the end of their fiscal year over there at Ubisoft. This comes from Marcus Persson at Game Reactor. After years of delays and hiccups, it seems that Ubisoft has finally got the Prince of Persia: The Sands of Time remake back on track. The reworked version of the classic 2003 game is now expected to be released before April 2026. The game, originally developed by Ubisoft Pune and Ubisoft Mumbai, Pune maybe, faced criticism for the new graphical style, which was one of the reasons why development was instead shifted to Ubisoft Montreal in 2022. God, was it really that long ago now?
Jeez.
According to Ubisoft's latest financial report, the game is now scheduled to be released before the end of their fiscal year, 2025-2026, which means a launch by the end of March next year. I guess when I hear that it shifted in 2022 and they've kind of been working on it somewhat steadily since then, I suppose a release within the next 6 to 9 months sounds reasonable.
Right.
Uh, what do you think?
I mean, God, yeah. How long does it take to remake Prince of Persia? I guess, especially if you're Ubisoft, you have the people and the resources to throw at it. One would think. I hope this hit comes out. I hope it's good. I mean, the original is a fantastic game that still holds up. I'm a little worried they poisoned the Prince of Persia well a little bit when they laid off the team who made the last game that everyone
Yep.
really liked. Like there could be a bad sentiment
Game of the
around
year.
it. Um, but yeah, I mean, if this is good, plays good, looks good, I'm excited to get my hands on it. We'll just kind of wait and see, I guess.
Yeah, I love Sansa Time so much. That game was just like exactly what I was in the mood for back on the GameCube, and that's where I played it. Where I'm like, man, I want something that kind of feels like it's cool. That this cool new 3D stuff is really being taken advantage of, and at the same time has that I don't know 2D platformer feel. And this one really got all that stuff right. Some good ideas to make that stuff work in 3D.
It really rode off the coattails of Blink's the Time Sweeper
Oh, yeah,
in a good way.
of course, but what game hasn't? Like
No, yeah,
that's every game.
I mean, that's really like an inflection point for like all video games, really.
Yep, just all of art. Ubisoft is making a Riders Republic movie. God, I forgot about this headline as I started to read it. This is from Ben Lyons at Game Reactor. Ubisoft is once again trying its hand at a big screen adaptation of one of its core franchises. No, we're not talking about Assassin's Creed or Far Cry or Splinter Cell or Rayman or Prince of Persia or Watch Dogs or even Rainbow Six. The game that will be getting a movie adaptation this time is Riders Republic. That's right, the open world extreme sports title movie by both Ubisoft Film and Television and Gaumont. I'm assuming that's French. It will be set on the Alps, will offer a ton of impressive stunts, and be sculpted by the vision of Bad Boys for Life and Bad Boys Ride or Die director Adil Al-Arabi, or Arbi, excuse me. And and it's going to be written by Stillwater's Noé Debris. God, man, all these accents on these names. I'm falling over today. Okay, hey, go for it. I guess
Sure.
it just feels like an empty canvas for an action movie, right? With vehicles,
Right. Yeah, that's all it is. I mean, they kind of did it with Gran Turismo, I guess, but even that like tied back to the video game in a weird way. I don't know if they're
Right.
gonna try to do something like that, or like, is it really just we're Riders Republic and we're here to ride the movie? Like,
It's
I
it's
don't know what
almost
that means.
it's certainly going to be an isekai, right? It's got to be.
Yeah, some kids get sucked into the game and now they got a snowboard.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I think it's probably just like every one of these movie studios wants to have their Fast and Furious, right? A vehicle-based
Mhm.
action movie with cool people doing cool stunts. And this just felt like, hey, we can pick this one off the shelf and do something like that with that. And sure, maybe you can. I don't know. I like I've liked some action sports movies in the past. Point Break being the most obvious one there. That's a great movie. This is probably not going to be as good as Point Break, though.
No, it just goes to show how desperate these studios are to latch on to any sort of established IP, no matter
Yes.
how minor that may be. Like, they don't trust us to come in at the ground floor. There has to be something they can latch onto with some history.
Yeah, and I mean, kind of like working in corporations, I kind of understand what that is now. You have to be able to tell a story of something you can leverage. There is excitement for this brand. This brand sold this many copies. It has this many active players, and we can leverage that excitement for our purposes in the movie industry. And I think most of the time if you were to like bring one of us into that room while they were having that pitch, we'd be like, that's excuse me, that's bullshit. That's not going to do anything.
No one cares about Riders Republic to that degree that they're gonna be like, well, I have to go see the movie.
Yeah, it's like you are just making all this up, but that storytelling is very important for getting things done inside of like corporations with people who are a little bit disconnected sometimes, and that's 100% what this always is these days. All right, test Death Stranding 2 reviews are scoring far higher than the original. And it's like, wait, are these leaking? How do we know this? And that's according to Kojima, who is actually sharing this himself. This is from Andy Robinson at VGC. Hideo Kojima has claimed that audience test reviews show that players are feeling far more positive about Death Stranding 2 on the beach than they did about the original game. However, the creator says this puts him in a conflicting situation since he's not motivated by making something that appeals to everyone. This motherfucker.
It's too successful. How can I sleep at night?
He just said his game is too
like
good.
This thing I made.
Hey, what is your biggest weakness? I make games that are too good. This fucking guy. Oh shit, I love him so much. Oh god, I'm so glad. We are so lucky that we are live at the same time as this guy.
Seriously.
Oh, okay. He says, I do listen to criticism if the controls need tweaking or if a camera pan is too slow or too fast, but I don't alter themes or story based on feedback, Kojima said. Of course, I want people to play my game, so I must listen to them to a certain extent, but also I'm not interested in making something that appeals to everyone. Asked about audience review testing and how much he pays attention to it, Kojima replied, in fact, I did a lot of monitoring of tests for the original Death Stranding. I'd find that 4 out of 10 people would love the game, but 6 would say it was a terrible game. For me, I think it's a good balance, but with the playtest for Death Stranding 2 on the beach, everyone seems to be positive. He added, Sony is pleased, of course, but I do wish I was a bit more controversial. Blockbuster films need an 80% approval rating. I don't want to make games like that. I'm not interested in appealing to the mass market or selling millions of copies. That's not what I'm aiming for. All right, dude. He is an auteur.
Just incredible.
Yep. I wouldn't change anything about him. Like, again, I feel lucky to have him. How are you with your anticipation for Death Stranding 2? Because I got to say, I'm getting in the mood for it.
I've never touched the original game. After hearing Dan talk about his time with 2 and how he's kind of turned around the franchise, I just the other day installed it to my Steam Deck. I haven't started it yet, so I do want to give it a shot to see if there's any meat on those bones. I don't know if I'll play through all of 1 or maybe
I don't think you need to play through all of 1.
Yeah, maybe see if I jive with it and then like watch a video and then go to 2. We'll see. Not trying to run the play right now.
Just rush through it until you get to chapter 3, and if you kind of can't make it there, I think you're fine to just jump into 2. You'll be fine.
Okay.
In chat, Mike Minotti is talking mess about Kojima, and we all know why that is. It's because he wants to protect his auteur buddy Tommy Tallarico, who he's just thick as thieves with. And all right, fine, dude. You know, I think there's enough space for multiple, although maybe not Tommy. But if you disagree, that's fine. Kojima will tour 12 cities ahead of Death Stranding 2 on the beach launch. This is from Dean Takahashi at GamesBeat. Kojima Productions said the studio's creator Hideo Kojima is gearing up to visit 12 locations across the globe to celebrate the launch of Death Stranding 2 on the beach, which arrives exclusively on PlayStation 5 on June 26th. Basically, he's going to hit a bunch of cities, I guess maybe in a bus. I don't know.
So he doesn't want everyone to like his game, but he's going to tour the countryside
yes.
to bask in the adoration of fans.
These positive reviews are going to ruin the tour. What tour?
What tour?
The world tour, because he's going to Sydney, Tokyo, Paris, London, Seoul, Taipei, Hong Kong, Shanghai, Riyadh, Sao Paulo, and Luca. God, man, I knew I was going to get one of these names wrong. Yeah, so he's popping all over the world. He's going to start in Los Angeles on June 8th, though, and that's the weekend of Summer Game Fest. So there we go. Yeah. I do think that they probably will go hard on the marketing for this one because the first one seemed to pay off really well in terms of it found its audience. They probably can build this into something more, especially if like reviews start coming out, and they are really popping off. Like, do you have like a Open Critic / Metacritic guess for this one? I mean, just going on vibes, obviously.
I don't know what the first one got, but something tells me it's going to be higher than you think. Like the good old 89 feels about right for this, doesn't it?
I think high 80s, yeah. And, for people that, first of all, none of this matters. You play the game, you like whatever you want. But in terms of like a game being able to get a high Metacritic, getting up to 88, 89 is very difficult. Most games can't do that. I do think this one has a chance for that, though. All right, a handful more headlines. Epic CEO says Apple still hasn't approved its Fortnite iOS submission, suggesting it's obstructing the process. This is from Chris Scullion at VGC. Epic CEO Tim Sweeney says Apple has still yet to approve the addition of Fortnite to the iOS App Store and has suggested it's obstructing the process. The game was submitted to Apple for review on May 9th, but on May 14th, Sweeney told followers on Twitter that Apple still hadn't approved the game's release. After one follower asked Sweeney where the game was, he replied, "No news from Apple yet. They've had it since last Friday." When another follower asked if Epic had reached out to Apple to find out what was going on, he replied, "We emailed yesterday but haven't heard back." Apple's official developer site states that on average, 90% of submissions are reviewed in less than 24 hours. Looks like this is one of those 10%. It's going to take a little bit longer. I mean, we mostly know what's going on here, right? Apple's still very bitter about this legal fight with Epic. Epic has won the last few rounds and has basically is in a situation where Apple's being compelled by the courts, by the judges, to enable Epic to put Fortnite back on iOS globally, including the United States, which has been sort of one of the places where they haven't had to do that. And when they do that, Epic is also going to be able to introduce web payments through its app, through Fortnite, where people can like see the price. It's like, if you want to just use your iOS account, here's the price. And if you want to pay less and pay us directly, click this link, go to our website, put in your credit card information there, and we can make this all work over here. And they're going to have to do that now, even in the United States. So we know Apple doesn't like that, but they are, right now they're facing criminal contempt of court charges for dragging their feet on this. So they probably can't put this off too much longer, right?
Right. I mean, I've had in the past some apps I've submitted for review that I've worked on. I've had it take up to 2 weeks. Yep. I'm sure that they'll go as long as they can and feel like they got away with it. But the whole thing's so fascinating to me. It's truly the Godzilla let them fight moment for me because I don't have any true skin in this game. I mean, I'm an iPhone user. I play Fortnite, but if one wants to beat up the other, go for it. We'll see what happens. I did see, I don't know what app the screen came from, but like an app that does have this new payment system in place. When you clicked it, like it popped up this really scary warning that's like, you are about to leave to a third-party payment portal that's not protected by Apple's privacy and security. It's like, whoa, okay, are they allowed to say that? Because that sounds a little like, hey, it's a pretty nice payment portal. You got to be ashamed if something would have happened to it, It
definitely 100%. It's because it is that. Yeah, that's the 100. We just know historically that any sort of friction at all like causes people to like be like, well, I could just put away my credit card instead of figuring out if I should be worried about this. And that's,
Mhm.
for the most basic stuff, a big scary message like that. We know the intent there. And Apple's intent is we really like getting 30% of you even buying things on the internet through a browser like that. We like that too. So we
Mhm.
want that money. And it's like, man, that's just so crazy to me that they were ever able to do that. It would be like going on the browser on your window or on your Windows machine and buying something through Amazon and Microsoft getting 30% of that. Just so stupid. Apple's been
And
doing that for years.
there was a time early on when you could look at it the way a console's treated, this
Definitely.
closed system device. But I mean, the phone and the tablet have superseded the personal computer as the device you use for your just day to day stuff, and it logically doesn't make sense as the walled garden it once did anymore. It's just not in
Yep.
that same category like it used to be. I mean, my mother, for years we had to keep her up to date with a okay computer so she could look at photos and send email. She just has an iPhone now. She
Yep.
doesn't need that. And frankly, too, she's not going to be bothering with the payment portal, like you said. If even if there was a price break, maybe she'd call me and ask for help. But generally, she's just going to do the path of least resistance. It's why I
Yep.
use the default mail app on my phone instead of something like Spark. In the end, it's just kind of easier to stay in Apple's lane, and that's to their advantage. They make the hardware, the software. If they want their software to be a little more convenient, they have that ability. Same as Microsoft with something like Windows Defender,
Hmm.
instead of installing Norton. But at the end of the day, you make yourself look a little better by being open to other avenues, but here's why ours is the best and why you should use it.
Yep. Exactly. All right. So let's see here. SNK CEO steps down after heavily marketed Fatal Fury City of the Wolves seemingly muted launch. This is from Chris Scullion at VGC. SNK has announced that its CEO will be stepping down following the release of the heavily marketed fighting game. The company announced that Kenji Matsubara, who joined as CEO in August 2021, will transition to an advisory role where he will continue to lend his expertise and vision, says the quote. During his tenure as CEO, Mr. Matsubara has been instrumental in driving the company's growth and innovation, a statement reads. Um, they that game was everywhere, right? It was on
Yeah,
WWE, UFC. It was everywhere.
they heavily marketed all the ick factor of the game. Like
Yes,
they told me a lot of reasons why I don't want that game.
right. And so that was like them bringing in Messi, or I'm not Messi. I'm sorry,
Ronaldo.
Ronaldo, and then
No, Messi's fine.
yeah, Messi's all right. Yes, exactly. And then that DJ who's just friends with MSB. And so they put him in there. And why does that matter? Because SNK is owned by a company that is owned by Saudi Arabia's royal family. And yeah, they played up those components of it. And I was like, that's probably not going to hurt it. I think really what happened here is I think there's a lot of people who are just like, Fatal Fury, what is that? There's a younger audience that just has no reference for why this franchise matters. And this game didn't necessarily answer any of those points. They just played up some of these other factors. And
Well,
then
and I
that
think
turned
I
away
think
some of us.
that sucked the air out of the room. Instead of focusing on A, what makes this a good fighting game, and B, here's Mai in her various DLC outfits.
Yeah, right.
They were wasting time and resources putting Ronaldo trailers out and all this nonsense. And that wasn't what was ever going to sell this game. No one really cared that a DJ you've never heard of is in this game, even if his moveset's cool and he kind of looks like a Maximilian dude. Like, that's not selling the game. Bringing back and rebooting this storied fighting game franchise, and why is that cool, and why is it relevant, and what is it doing that's unique? They didn't do any of that, and that's what
Yep.
would have sold the game.
Exactly. Yep. It's a game that does play pretty good, but I just didn't. I wasn't in the mood to ever play it because of all this other stuff that was happening there. You're right. It sucked the air out of the room for me. All right. Last headline here: EA pushes for return to the office as remote work is scaled back. This is from Samuel Roberts at GamesIndustry.biz. Electronic Arts has sent employees a notice that it's scaling back remote working, implementing a new hybrid policy of 3 days a week in the office, at least. According to IGN, an email sent around the company by EA CEO Andrew Wilson said that employees will spend a minimum of 3 days a week in their local office, with off-site local rules steadily being phased out. Wilson's justification is that in-office work generates, quote, a kinetic energy that fuels creativity, innovation, and connection, often resulting in unexpected breakthroughs that lead to an incredible experience for our players. Okay. A follow-up by EA Entertainment President Lauren Miele explained that the changes will not take place immediately, with work model transitions having a minimum 12-week notice period, so 3 months. I mean, I think what we have learned, AJ, and you tell me if you think that this is any different in this case, is that these moves are stealth layoffs because there are people who have shifted their entire lives to working remote in a place where they can afford more things, that the cost of living is lower, and they've now built their lives around making a certain amount of money, and then a certain amount of money going out, and they kind of can't upset that by moving back toward the office that they moved away from in the first place. So a certain percentage, when this happens, are going to stop working at the company no matter what. They're not going to make that change back. So this is a way for them to cut staff without saying they're having layoffs, right? Do you think that's what's happening here?
You don't have layoffs, you don't have severance, because it's voluntary separation at that point. It doesn't speak to the human situation that they've created that they don't seem to want to own up to. In 5 years, you're working remotely and you've come to rely on that. So like you said, maybe you do move somewhere where the cost of living is cheaper. Maybe you have children now, and now your childcare situation is going to be thrown out of whack. Maybe you just don't want to drive 2 hours a day because you don't have to do that anymore. And they never want to address that. It's always, we want to foster collaboration. What does that mean? Like, you're gonna go back to the EA of 2018 where you were just cranking out hit after hit? Like, what are we trying to get back to? I don't understand it. And we've seen so many successful, not even just in gaming, but so many successful companies and products and projects that have been, not hampered by remote work at all. The Ori games, and we won't talk about the director and his whole thing, but just the games themselves and the team who made those, that Moon Studios was always remote, and those are two of the best games ever made, like dripping with creativity and unique ideas. So they couldn't do it? Would it have been better if they were in an office? I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean, I think we know that this is mostly bullshit. It's a different kind of creativity that can happen if you work remote than if you have people in an office. Sure, I'll buy the serendipitousness of someone being like, I have an idea, and then someone overhearing that in the office. Sure, that could happen, but you only get the people that could work in the office, not the people on the other side of the world that could work remotely, that have a completely different perspective than you. And then you can add in, sort of like multiply that factor by going in all these different places and getting all these different kinds of people to work together in a remote setting where that would have a different kind of creativity. So we know this is bullshit. It's just about sort of cutting costs in a way that is stealth. And I just hate that this is where I think personally, there's got to be a law against this. There really should be, because this is a new lever that they've discovered for like dropping people off, cutting people off at the bottom, so they can make some more money by saving on labor costs. And I just don't think they should be able to pull this lever. I think it should be against the rules. We've already sort of codified that they can just lay people off as a lever to make more money. And that sucks. But at a certain point, that's like, we just said that's okay, and we didn't stop it. So here we are. I think the idea that they can basically have effective layoffs without saying they're laying people off because they've changed the rules on them for how they can work their job, I think that should be illegal. This sucks.
And at the end of the day, if you think remote work's not working for your company, that is a management issue. And we've said a lot of failings of the game industry seem to come down to management issues that they don't want to address or do anything about. They just want to keep it business as usual. They're not willing to kind of challenge that, like, upper mid tier of director, management, whatever it is. They don't want to meet the challenge, which is frustrating because, again, we've seen people who have met that challenge and it's led to great things.
Yep. All right, that does it for the headlines. We have poll question to get to, and then we'll have a new one to talk about here in a second. Let me refresh Giant Bomb over on YouTube. That's youtube.com/@giantbomb. You click on the community tab. You can find the poll question like this one. Are you going to a midnight launch for Switch 2? It's a midnight launch for Switch 2. Yes or no? 10% said yes, they are going to a midnight launch. 90% said no, they are not. Yeah, that sounds about right. A lot of people were probably able to get those pre-orders in where they're going to get it sent to them or whatever. Ash Guy, you are going to a midnight launch, right?
I am the 10%, baby.
Yeah.
Yeah, Best Buy is where I got my Switch 2, and they are doing midnight store launches. I could have had it shipped to me, but I like midnight launches. It's a nostalgic thing for me. Chris and I were at the Switch 1 launch while Mike was at, I think, GDC that year. So he kind of missed out on it. But we both got our Switches. We got his too, actually. I think we were able to pick his up. And that night we got home at 12:30 and we were playing Switch. Now, the funny thing that I did laugh about is we're gonna get back to probably Mike's house, and first we gotta install this day one patch and download Mario Kart because it's just a code for that game. So we won't be playing anything till God knows when if the servers hold up. But I do like that kind of weird coming together, especially like here in Youngstown, Ohio. There's not a lot of like public gaming stuff, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah.
So this is like one of those few times where like I'm in a line with 50 other people and we're all excited about a Nintendo console coming out and getting to experience a little bit of that. Also, so Mike and Chris did not get theirs at Best Buy. I think they got Walmart or Target being shipped to them. But Best Buy did announce that they are going to have limited in-store stock at these midnight sales for non-pre-orders. I don't want to say Mike's an impulsive person, but he did also import a GameCube from Japan instead of waiting 3 months for it to come to the States. So I wouldn't be surprised if he also just tries to get one at midnight and either cancels his Target order or, do like you've talked about, like reselling it at cost or giving it to a friend or something. So he might pull that move if the opportunity presents itself. I think we all did get Pro controllers and accessories for midnight at Best Buy, so they'll get that stuff too. But yeah, I look forward to it. It's just, I did the midnight launch for the Wii at a Toys R Us in Pittsburgh with Chris with 200 people at that. It was huge. I was the first person in line at a Target for the 360 when that came out. When Mike was going to school in Toledo, so I didn't even know. I didn't have anything with me. I didn't know where I was. I just showed up this Target because it was the only place that didn't have a line. And I asked if there was a line. They said not yet. And I said okay. And I sat at a bench outside. A guy showed up. He goes, "Are you in line for the Xbox?" I said, "Yep, I'm right here."
But yeah, I love those things. I love going to them. It's always been I would do it more frequently for games than hardware. I can never usually couldn't afford the hardware at launch, so it was like a situation where I'm like, I wish I could go that midnight launch, but I won't be able to make that happen. So the fact that maybe there's a chance to do it this time, I keep thinking about it. Although if I do it, I think I will be in LA at that time, so we'll see.
Yeah.
All right. A new poll question. We'll get to it here in a second, as promised. Before we do that, though, Ash Guy, why don't you tell people once again where they can find you on the internet and what you have going on, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so I'm on Blue Sky at AJ Guy, and then that's also where you can find 90s Disney, which is at 90sdisney.com or the website. We do a monthly show on the first of the month. That's our main topic, and then somewhere in the middle of the month is a bonus episode. Like I said, we'll talk about Mike and Chris's recent trip to Disney and Universal's Epic Universe. We're recording that Sunday night, so if you want to ask anything about the trip, hit us up on Blue Sky and ask your questions. And you might see more of me now that apparently my brother owns part of this company. That's crazy. Who saw that coming? Yep. So I think that makes me like a first gentleman or something like that. We're gonna go with that.
I think that's how it works.
I think I'm the first gentleman of Giant Bomb, so I'm gonna go with that title. If you all would please fall in line, I would appreciate your compliance.
That's what we've been doing in our Discord. So yeah, absolutely. We'll just keep calling you that for sure. All right, excellent. Yeah, we'll get you back on Game Mess Mornings for sure at some point in the future. This was great. New poll question. Are you excited about Death Stranding 2? Yes, no, or I am waiting for reviews. Those are your three options. You can vote for this poll question on youtube.com/@giantbomb. Hit the community tab there. Vote. We'll get the results. We'll talk about it on Game Mess Mornings here on Giant Bomb tomorrow. Speaking of Giant Bomb, what do we have going on? Well, we are going to be doing Voicemail Dump Truck here very soon. And then later I'll be on the Aftermath podcast to talk about what we're doing over here at Giant Bomb, things like that. We're everywhere this week, so you're going to get sick of us for sure. And then I think Mike and I might try to get a quick look done of that Capcom Fighting Collection too. Looking forward to it.
If you haven't, go back and watch Blight Club from Wednesday. Mike looks really cool.
I'm glad you said it because he really just looks so
true to your
cool.
word.
Yep.
True. At first I was like, is this like another Sub-Zero thing? Where are we going with this? I in my wildest dreams, I never thought he'd look so cool.
Yep, it's Rascal but Mike, everybody. Blight Club, available now on YouTube, and then you can tune in next Wednesday for the next episode. You're not going to want to miss it. It's going to be very good.
Must see TV. All
right, I think that's going to do it. AJ Minotti, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me about video games.
Yeah,
today,
Jeff,
man.
thanks for having me, man. This was super fun. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. No, yeah, thanks. I think, like I said, we'll have you on again very soon. In the meantime, thank you everybody for watching and listening. You are the best audience in gaming. If you want to support what we're doing over here, giantbomb.com/join. Everything goes into supporting us as independent creators for a self-owned company. It's employee-owned. We're going to keep this thing going with your help. Until next time, have a good one. Take care of yourself, and goodbye.
Bye.
Yummy like a gummy bear.